Locker, have the Democrats peaked a bit too early with the wave of momentum, as Vibhuti is pointing out, around Kamala Harris? Or do we need to wait for the first much awaited debate face off between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris to actually let America decide and finalize its mood as to which way the presidential ballot is likely to swing?
Well, first of all, I'm going to have to disagree with Mr. Jha on whether or not the Democratic agenda is communist or socialist. I think, Kamala Harris, before she became vice president of an administration that is overseeing a revival in U.S. manufacturing for private industry, not state-run industry. She was a senator and attorney general of one of the largest economies in the world, and that's the state of California. Second, I don't think that they've peaked too early. I think they're going to peak probably by the end of this week after 4 days of consistent media attention at the Democratic convention and a hammering on Donald Trump. Obviously, the debate will be pivotal, as we saw with the June 27th debate between President Biden and Donald Trump. And that's the thing that started the calls for Biden to withdraw, which he finally agreed to do. Debates are a big deal. I like her chances better against Trump because during the first debate, it was only Biden's poor performance that obscured Trump's abysmal performance, one that was repeat lies and misrepresentation. So he's not going to be able to get away with that anymore. The fact is, Donald Trump has never been an overwhelmingly popular candidate or president. He's never received the majority of popular votes in this country, and he never really polled above 50% in approval polls during his entire presidency. So this is somebody who is 78 years old. He's wearing out his welcome, and he's going to have a challenge to regain his lead in the polls, which I think was based mostly on President Biden's weakness, not Trump's strength.
Okay, Vibhuti, if the momentum continues Kamala Harris's way, will we look back at this election and call it an election in which Donald Trump perhaps dug his own grave by focusing a bit extensively on Biden and forcing the Democrats to change the presidential candidate? Because that seems to have been a masterstroke which has really caught Donald Trump off guard, as Ray Locker was pointing out. I'm referring to a recent speech he made at Pennsylvania, where he seems to have not made up his mind to what to attack Kamala Harris on. Sometimes he says her laugh is something which is scary. Sometimes he called her Comrade Kamala. This quote specifically is quite illuminating. He says, they'll say he was rambling. I don't ramble. I'm a really smart guy, really smart. I don't ramble. But the other day, anytime I hit too hard, they say he was rambling. He's almost acknowledging the fact that perhaps his comments, his attacks, his speeches over the last few weeks, ever since Kamala Harris has become his main rival, have been a bit off the mark. And it seems Donald Trump really cannot decide on what his agenda is to take on Kamala Harris. He prepared almost entirely for Joe Biden. Kamala Harris seems to have come out of syllabus for him.
Yeah, the elements of surprise always exist in politics, and you got to be ready for that. So Mr. Trump ought to be ready, because who knows, the convention may have somebody else. There was a whole lot of permutation combination going on before Biden was, ousted, so to say. But important part here is, again, if I may say to Mr. Ray's comment about popular vote in America, American elections do not run on the same basis as India or UK or European elections run. There is a system of electoral college. If popular vote alone were to decide, we don't need election in United States. Let California and New York decide who will be the next president. But I totally do not agree with that process. However, it is important to bear in mind that we do not need to jump the gun, so to say, as of now. This Democratic convention needs to be over. After this one is over, let's see what happens in the debate. The policy is important, because one thing we know: what are people tired of? They're tired of wars, incessant wars. They are tired of the breach of border on the southern area. They are tired of the inflation that has eaten up, from the actual inflation that is affecting the people. And I can give you evidence of that. That whether you go to a Thai restaurant to pick up a green curry, the size of the container has gone half whereas you're paying the same price. So the entire America is experiencing not only Bidenflation, but also shrinkflation. These are issues which are very critical. But this is what is important here for Mr. Trump to remember. If I were to counsel Mr. Trump, I would say, go and focus on your policies, 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 and policies. Whose policies benefit the people? Whose policies benefit the nation? That's the agenda that needs to be driven. I give
Okay.
credit to Democrats. They are very savvy in exploiting the emotional content of the campaign. They do it very well. And that's where the Republican Party has to shape up.
But
That how do you
but
combine
Vibhuti Jha,
emotion and fact
that
together?